Next, we're going to need some text to represent our score. So I'm going to go over to my text tool, and we'll stick with the classic static text since we only need some small bits. It doesn't really matter what font you use, but pick something that's going to be nice and big. I'm going to use Arial Black because that'll be a nice blocky font for mine. I'll also set the color to white so it shows up good against the background. And let's try out the text to see how good the size is. 80 looks a little big, but I'll go ahead and type into it. Now I'm going to have my clock counting down from 3 seconds. So I'm going to put in here 00:03. Let me just switch over to my normal selection tool. And whenever you have text selected like a blue box like this, any changes you make will be to all of the text. So it's an easy way not to have to select it. Now I'm just going to go over to the size and pull that in until it looks like it'll fit in the box there. Now, as an interesting side note, I can use my transform tool on text as well. I can simply stretch it out a little bit and make those into nice tall letters that fill in the box. I'm going to nudge them up just a little bit with my arrow keys, and that looks pretty good for the clock portion of our scoreboard. Now I'm also going to need some score down here at the bottom. Let me switch back to my text tool, and I'm thinking for the score I'm going to use a red color. I also want numbers, and we're going to set up the home team with 14 points. And since I still have my text tool selected, I'm just going to click down here a little bit below that. That'll deselect the first text field, and if I click again, we'll create a new one. Now this is just going to be the little label for the home team. So I want the text to be white again. And I want it to be considerably smaller. Not sure how small yet, but we can always change that again later. And I'll type home into there with all caps. Let me click away and we'll see how that looks. There we go. So now we've got our score set up for the home team. Now we need the visitors on the other side. Here's something that I do quite often inside of my applications. I'm going to select both the number and home by holding down Shift, and you can see I've got both of those selected. Now what I'm going to do is just quickly create a copy. We've already got the settings set up and I can just change the text. We could either copy and paste, or we could use one of my favorite keyboard shortcuts, and that is the Option or Alt key. Now normally if you drag selected items around, you just move them. But if you hold the Option key down while you're doing your dragging, you see we get a little plus icon, and what we're actually doing is making a copy of the original pieces. Now let me click away, and what we'll do is we'll just double click on each one of the fields and change the text. This is going to be my visitors score over here. And they're currently winning at 3 seconds with one more point. So I'll change the 14 to 15. Now let me just switch back to my selection tool and we'll make sure everything is set up nicely. And we've got our scoreboard. Now I want to make our scoreboard look like it's part of the scene, and what might help is if we added a little bit of 3D tilt to it so it would seem like it's running along the far side of the field. Now that's okay, but let's click on the pieces that we've got here. I've got a rectangle primitive which has lots of interesting properties, but if we start closing some of these categories down, you'll notice there is no 3D position, and we don't have things like filter. Well, that's because those come along with our symbols. More important is those 3D portion of our properties. That's only going to come with movie clip symbols. That means we're going to have to convert each one of these elements. Now that's going to be a little bit of a mess if I have 14 pieces here and I try to rotate them all to the same exact angle in 3D space. So what might be a lot easier is if we just take all of these pieces and gang them up together in a single movie clip, and then we can rotate that one. To make sure we only get the scoreboard parts, I'm just going to click away from everything. That deselects everything from my movie. And an easy way to select everything that's in one layer is to go up and just click on the layer itself. Now all the items inside the layer are selected and nothing else, so we can go ahead and make our movie clip symbol. We can go up to Modify, choose Convert to Symbol, or you can use your F8 keyboard shortcut. I'm going to name it something like Scoreboard, and we'll leave the setting type as movie clip and the registration point in the center. I'll click OK. And there we've got our new scoreboard movie clip. And you can even see right away that 3D position and view is something that we can change and set on this movie clip. Of course, we can either modify the properties directly, or we can go up and use our 3D tools. So let me switch to my 3D rotation tool here. That gives me the familiar crosshairs in the center, and I'm just going to rotate this one back along the Y-axis. That's my green handle. That gives me a little bit of depth into the background, and a little bit of rotation from the X or the red axis, and we can see we can set it up pretty easily to match the perspective of our field.